This video will explain how to set up and use the new accounts section on the Baby's Days system. New features were added around June 2022, and this video will help explain how to use those new features on the system. To access the accounts section on the system, place your mouse over the accounts icon and select General Setup. You must first set up the general setup on the system. Then once this has been set up, you can then proceed to set up individual children's accounts. Most sections are self-explanatory, however we will run through them to explain them in more detail. Invoice contact information is your company or childcare name, address, telephone number and email. Within the default information section, you must enter the average working hours per week that you work. This section only needs to be completed by childminders, and the maximum hours that you can select is 40. This 40 hours is set by the government. Within the payment options section, select the payment options that you accept, for example cash, cheque, bank transfer or card. Simply tick and untick those that you accept. If you accept cheques, detail who the cheque should be made payable to. If you accept bank transfer, enter your bank details, bank name, address, account number, account name and sort code. Within the contracted hourly rates section, enter the standard contracted hourly rates that you charge within your setting. They can be a standard rate, time and a half, or any rate. By default, rate 1 will always be used and charged on creation of invoices. However, when you create an invoice, you can select a different rate to charge from any of those shown below. If you would like to use the closure dates feature on the system, you can also enter your closed rates. For example, if you normally charge a rate 1 of £4 an hour, you state here how much you would charge if your setting is closed. Therefore, if you have agreed with parents that when your setting is closed you will charge half rate, you can enter that rate shown here. When you create an invoice and you have entered closure dates on the system, which we will come to later in the video, the system will automatically charge the closed hourly rate shown here. Therefore, if you do not charge an hourly rate when you're closed, you can simply enter 0 in this box. Therefore, when the setting is closed, the parent would not be charged an hourly rate. If in your setting you would like to charge a half day or full day rate, you can complete this section shown here. First, you must select the up to hours and the rate that you will charge for half rate. Therefore, in this example, you can see we are selecting up to 3 hours. We're going to charge a half day rate of £25, and then after 3 hours, we will charge a full day rate of £50. Naturally, you will select your hours and the rates that you would like to enter into these boxes. Once again, if you're using the closure days section on the system, you can enter your close rates and how much you will charge. Here we can see up to hours as above, 3 hours. We're going to charge a half day rate of 10 and a full day rate of 20. If you do not want to charge when you are closed, you simply enter 0 into both of these boxes. Therefore, when the setting is closed, the parents would not be charged. Similar to the half day full day rate, we also have a before and after school rate. Here we can see our before school rate is £15 and our after school rate is £20. Once again, we have a closed rate of £5 and £5. Once again, if you do not charge when the setting is closed, simply enter 0 into these boxes. You will see information here for the before and after school rate that each session is not related to a set number of hours. It is a set rate for a morning or afternoon care. Therefore, if you have agreed with the parents that you will look after a child before school for £15, you enter the rate here. And if you have agreed to look after the child at an after school rate of just £20. So this is not a set number of hours. Beneath this we have the session rates. If you charge a session rate for specific care, click on the Add Session Rate button shown here to add a new session rate. Alternatively, you can manage any existing session rates. Here we can see we have session 1, the open rate is 25 and the closed hourly rate is £10. To add a new session, click on the Add Session Rate, give your session a name and then select the open and closed rate for your session. Beneath this we have the new childcare funding rates. If in your setting you receive funding for 2, 3 and 4 year olds, you must tick the box shown here. and then you can enter the rates you receive for each age range. When you create an invoice for a child, all funded hours will display as a 0 rate for parents. Here we can see we've ticked the box, and now we enter our 2-year-old rate and our 3- and 4-year-old rate. In addition, you can also enter the EYPP Early Years Pupil Premium rate that you receive for 3- and 4-year-olds. If you do not receive funding in your setting, simply untick the box shown here. Within the food and drink allowance section, we must now detail how much we are claiming for each meal we provide children in the setting. For breakfast we claim £1, morning snack £1.50, lunch £2, afternoon snack £1.50 and dinner £3. These figures will be used to help calculate your tax return for the children in your setting. Beneath this we have the vehicle expenses section. You can either claim a pence per mile or a percentage of your vehicle expenses. If you would like to claim pence per mile, tick this section here and select claim expenses at the cost per mile. Alternatively, if you would like to claim a percentage of your vehicle expenses, tick this section here and select the percentage of your running costs that you would like to claim. If you would like to upload a logo that will appear on your invoices, simply click here, select and upload your logo. Ensure you click on Save to save any changes you have made. Once you have set up your account's general setup, that default information will be applied to each child on the system. However, should you make any changes in the future, once a child has been set up on your system, you would need to edit each individual child. For example, if you decided to change your hourly rate from £4 to £4.50, changing this hourly rate in the general setup page will only apply to future children you have added to the system. Therefore, here we can see we have 3 children on the system. If they had already been set up and you decided to change your hourly rate in the general setup page, you would need to come in and edit each child individually and change the hourly rate for each child. Once you have completed the general setup page, you must now go to the Accounts Invoicing section and set up each individual child. If a child's settings have not been set up, you will see a red spanner icon indicating that you must set up their settings. To do this, click on the spanner icon beneath the child and you'll be taken to a new page to set up their individual settings. Here we can see we have the account settings for Harvey Daniels. The first section is the invoice name and address for the parent. Beneath this, you can decide if you would like to create weekly, monthly or termly invoices for the child. In this example, we're going to create a monthly invoice. Now we must select how this child will be invoiced. We can choose either a fixed rate or a half full day rate. Here we can see if we select a fixed rate, we must enter the fixed rate that we're going to charge each month for Harvey's childcare. Therefore, if we were to enter £500 into this box, each month the child would be invoiced £500, regardless of the hours that the child attended. If we choose the half-day, full-day rate, we can now see that the system will pull in the data from the general settings. Here we can see the open rate of up to 3 hours, we charge a half-day rate of 25, and then a full-day rate of 50, and then the closed rates 10 and 20. You can change the rates individually for any child on the system. Therefore, if you would like to charge up to 4 hours for 25, you can do so, or you can change the monetary value also. We're not going to select the half-day, full-day rate or fixed rate for this child's invoices. Before and after school rates. If you charge before and after school rate, simply tick the Use School Rates, and here we can see the rates that have been pulled in from the general settings. Once again, you can change these rates individually per child. If we're going to use the session rates, we click Use Session Rates. Here we can see a Session 1 open rate of 25 and £10 for a closed rate. If you would like to use a different session rate, you would need to go back to the account's general settings and add a new session rate to bring it in and display it here within the child's settings. Finally, we have the contracted hourly rates. As we did not select either session rate, before or after school rate, a fixed rate or a half-day, full-day rate, the system by default will now charge the hourly rate of rate 1 of £4. Once again, as discussed previously when setting up the general settings, You can also invoice rate 2 to rate 5 when you create the child's invoice. In this example, we're going to leave all the other sections unticked: session rates, before and after school rates, invoice rate, fixed rate, half-day rate. We have not placed a tick in any of those boxes, therefore the system will charge £4 an hour and a closed rate of 0. Once again, individually per child, you can decide, I would like to charge £1 when the setting is closed. Childcare funding. If you receive childcare funding for Harvey, tick the box below and confirm which funding you are currently receiving for the child. In this example, we are going to use childcare funding. We're going to tick the box and we're going to say we receive 2-year-old funding for this child. The rate was already entered within the general setup for the accounts section. Payment options. Yes, we will accept cash, cheque, bank transfer or a card payment. Payment due by note. If you'd like to add a note on the invoice, tick the box and then to the payment due by note here. This information will be displayed on the invoice. Childcare vouchers. If the parents pay you in childcare vouchers each month, for example £200, you can select to add a childcare voucher and enter details of the voucher here. How often do you receive the voucher? Weekly, monthly or termly? If you enter a voucher here, the value will be removed from the invoice on creation. Now we can enter the weekly contracted hours for the child, the start time, the finish time and the rate. So let's go ahead and do that for this child. We're going to say on Monday that he arrives at 8:30 and he leaves at 15:30. Select the rate. What rate would you like to invoice? In this example, we're going to select rate 1, which is £4 an hour. On Tuesday, we're going to select 8:30 arrival and departure time at 16:30 set. Now here we select the funded option. You will see here now that the funded hours total is 8 hours. We can continue to add the hours for the child. Here for Wednesday, 7:30 until 4:30, here we're going to use funded hours. Here we can see the funded hours total now displays as 17 hours. On Thursday, he arrives at 7 and he leaves at 6 p.m. Once again, we're going to choose the funded hours and here we can see our total funded hours is 28 hours. And finally on Friday, he arrives at 8 a.m. and he leaves at 10 a.m. and here we're going to use funded hours once again, and here we can see we've now used 30 hours. However, on Friday he's actually in the setting all day, therefore we're going to jump to session 2, and from session 2 we're going to say from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. we're going to charge rate 1. So here we can see Monday to Friday we're using rate 1 on Monday, funded hours from Tuesday to Friday, and on session 2 on Friday we're going to use rate 1 at £4 an hour. Within the food and drink allowance section we have the meals, costs and charges that we have set up in the general settings, breakfast all the way through to dinner. We must now decide on which days Harvey ate in the setting. Now on Monday through to Friday he ate every single day, every single meal. So we therefore tick each of these boxes. By ticking these boxes, the system will automatically calculate the costs involved for feeding this child throughout the week. In addition, you'll notice here on the left-hand side it states invoice food. If you have an agreement that you charge for specific meals throughout the day, you simply tick this box and that meal will be charged on the invoice. In this example, we're going to state that we charge for dinner at the rate of £3 per day. Therefore, on the invoice you will see charges for £3 for each of the 5 days of the week that the child is in the setting eating the meal. Naturally, Saturday and Sunday the child's not in the setting, therefore we do not tick that we fed the child on those days. If there are any additional charges you'd like to add to the invoice, you can enter them below. These are things like events or groups that you attend on a weekly basis. Do not add one-off charges, for example an outing that happened once a year. Only enter additional charges if it recurs each week. To do so, simply click on the Add Additional Charge button, enter the description and enter the value. This charge will then appear each week or month or term that you create an invoice for the child. Once you have set up the child correctly, ensure you save the changes. You will now be taken back to the Accounts Invoices section, where you can see for Harvey, he no longer has the red icon indicating that he needs to be set up. The child has now been set up and his invoices are ready to be created. Before we do that, we're going to edit Johnny and Sabine and select different settings for their invoices. We will now proceed to edit Johnny's settings. For weekly, monthly or termly invoices, we're going to select the termly option. For Johnny, we're going to select a fixed rate. This means we charge the same amount each term. The termly rate for Johnny's childcare is £1,400. There are no before and after school charges and there are no session rates. We are happy with the hourly rates and we do not receive childcare funding. The payment options are fine. We do not receive childcare vouchers. And we can now proceed to enter the start and finish times for each day of the week for Johnny. Once the hours have been entered, you can now select the rate. Here we can see rate 1 through to rate 5, and we also have a fixed option. The hours that the child attends is included within the fixed rate that we are charging. Therefore, you select fixed for each of the hours. We can now scroll down. We have the food and drink allowance. Once again, we're going to tick each box, indicating that we feed the child each day of the week for each meal. For Johnny, we do not invoice for any of the food, therefore we keep all of these boxes unticked. There are no additional invoices charges, and we can proceed to save the settings. And the final child is Sabine. We're now going to set up Sabine. Click on the setup icon. We are taken to account settings for Sabine. We can scroll down and decide how we're going to invoice for Sabine. In this example, we're going to select weekly invoicing. It's not going to be a fixed rate, a half day, before, after school, or a session rate. Therefore, we're going to charge the standard hourly rate. In this example, however, we offer them a reduced rate of £3.75. And we're going to select £3.75 and select the closed hourly rate, in this example, at £1. Do we receive childcare funding? Yes. We're going to tick the box for childcare funding and select that we receive 3 and 4-year-old funding and an additional EYPP payment. We do not receive childcare vouchers, and now we're going to proceed to enter the hours the child attends. This child attends 9 AM until 6 PM, and the rate is going to be funded. Here we can see we have a funded hour total of 9 hours. We can proceed to enter the remaining days. So after entering the hours that the child attends a setting, we can see we have a funded hour total of 30 hours. 9 till 6 Monday funded, 9 till 4 Tuesday funded, 8:15 to 4:15 on Wednesday funded, 9 till 3 funded, and 9 till 6 rate 1. This gives us a total of 30 hours funded. Once again, in this example, the child actually stays from 3 PM until 6 PM on Thursday afternoon. However, we can only claim for this amount of funded hours. So we're going to select this rate as rate 1 within session 2. We now scroll down. Once again, the meals that are provided for the child. Again, we're not going to invoice the food to the parent. There are no additional invoice charges, and we click on Save to save the child's settings. Before we proceed to create any invoices for the child, we're going to take a look at the Accounts Closure Date section. Within this section, you can add closure dates to the system. As advised previously, when the setting is closed, the system can automatically charge a 0 rate or an hourly rate that you selected when the setting is closed for each of the rates, for example, the hourly rate, the session rate, before, after school rate, etc. Here we can see on the 4th of July to the 6th of July, we have holiday. This means that the setting is closed. Therefore, the system will charge the closure rate when the setting is closed. We already set these closure rates up within the general settings. If you'd like to add a date that the setting is closed, it's a simple process of selecting the start date, for example August the 1st, and an end date, in this example just one day, therefore August the 1st, and we'll state that it is a training day, and simply click on Add Closure Date. The system will then add the closure date, and here we can see 1st of August training date occurs in 2 months plus. Once you have added your closure dates, we can now proceed and add invoices to the system. Place your mouse over the accounts icon and select invoicing. We're now going to proceed and create invoices for each of the 3 children on the system. We'll start with Harvey. Click on the calendar icon shown here. You will see that the invoicing is monthly. We click on this and we are now taken to the invoicing page for Harvey, showing the year 2022 and the option to create an invoice for any month of the year. We're going to proceed and create an invoice for July. We click on the plus icon to create the invoice, and we're taken to create Harvey Daniels' invoice for July 2022. At the top of the page you will see a rate calculation for this month's invoice. We can see that the total hours of this invoice was 190 hours. This is calculated as 61 hours at £4 an hour, providing a total of £244. The funded hours total was 122 hours, and we have a closed hourly rate at 7 hours at £1, totaling £7. Total for closed rate, £7. If we now scroll down, you will see the arrival and departure times for the child for each day of the month of July. Here we can see on Friday the 1st we have a session 1 rate of 8 till 10 and the rate was funded. Here we have session 2 from 10 till 6 and that rate was £4 an hour. Now we can see on the 4th, the 5th and the 6th of July the box is red. This is because the setting was closed due to a holiday. Therefore, the session 1 rate, 8:30 to 5:30, is charged at the closed hourly rate of £1 per hour. Here we can see on session 1 for the 5th the setting was closed. And here we can see that the rate was funded. However, as the setting was closed, we should not use the funded rate. You should edit this and select the rate of £1, which is the closed hourly rate. Select £1 and click on the tick at the top. You will now see that the session 1 has changed from 8:30 to 4:30 with a rate of £1 an hour. Likewise, for the 6th, on Wednesday, the rate was funded, however the session was closed. We would need to edit this, select the rate as the closed rate of £1 and click on Save. Now if we scroll up, you will see that the 61 hours at £4 has remained the same. The funded hours total has now dropped to 105 hours, and the closed hourly rate, 24 hours at £1, is now 24 instead of 7. If you wanted to in this example, because we were not able to use the funded hours correctly for the month, we could modify session 2 shown here, where we charged £4 an hour, we could actually change this back to funded. So if we edit here and select session 2, here we can see we're charging a rate of £4, we could change this to funded and click on Save at the top. Likewise, we could repeat that process here for session 2 to use up the 30 hours, clicking on Edit, changing the rate to funded and clicking on Save. If we now scroll up, you will now see that the rate 1 has dropped to 45 hours and the funded total hours has increased to 121. You can make any changes you like to any day of the week of the month by clicking on the edit icon and making the necessary changes. These changes are instantly reflected at the top of the page shown here. If we now scroll down, you will see the meal information. Here we can see, you may recall, we decided to charge a meal, which was dinner, each day that the child was in the setting. Likewise, you can make any changes you like here, clicking on the add icon, and you can decide to charge for any meals that you like or cancel the charges for meals. In this example, we're going to charge for each meal for the 7th of July. Here we can see the charges have now been applied to that day. If we now scroll down, we will see a breakdown of the invoice. Here we can see a provision of contracted childcare for Harvey from the 1st of July to the 31st of July. Total amount is £204. The funded total hours is 121 hours with a zero charge to the parents. No childcare vouchers were added, and here we can see a breakdown of all the meals that we have charged for the month of July. There are no additional monthly charges, and now you can add one-off additional charges or credits to the invoice. Simply enter the description and the value. If there are any invoice notes or due notes that you would like to add, note that invoice notes, the parents will be able to see this information on the invoice. Due notes, parents will not be able to see this information on the invoice. Here we can see a total invoice value of £264 and the payment options available for the parent. Beneath this, we have the option to complete the invoice. If the invoice is complete and you're happy for the child's parents to see this invoice, place a tick in this box here. If it's not complete and it is just a draft, do not tick this, as the parents will be able to see the invoice once this box is ticked. If you would like to send an email to the parents advising them that the invoice has been created, place a tick in this box. If the invoice is unpaid, place a tick here. If the invoice has already been paid, place a tick in this box shown here. In this example, we're going to state that the invoice is complete, and we're not going to send an email to the parents. Once you are happy with your changes, click Save to create the invoice. Once the invoice has been created, you'll be taken to the Children Setup and Invoicing page, where we can see we created an invoice for Harvey and a value of £264. Here we can see the invoice was for July 2022. The latest and newest invoice that's been created on the system will always display on this page. We're now going to proceed and we're going to create Johnny's invoice. We click on the Termly option shown here, and we can now select one of the terms on the system. Here we can see we only have one term, and that is from the 5th of September to the 16th of December. If you would like to add additional terms, simply go to Accounts, Yearly Terms, where you can add the terms for your setting. We click on the calendar icon to create an invoice for Johnny. We click on the plus icon for the term of which we are creating the invoice for. The system will now display the fixed termly rate calculation. If you recall, we decided to charge a fixed rate for the entire term, and that was £1,400. Here we can now see for each month within the term, you will see a calendar displaying the arrival and departure times for the child: September, October, November, and December. Once again, for any day, for any week, of any month, you can click on the edit icon to make changes. For example, if you would like to add additional hours or make changes to the rate. For example, the child was due to leave at 4:30, however did not leave until 6:30, we can add additional charges in session 2. We're going to do that by clicking here, selecting 16:30, and that he left at 18:30. And we're going to state we're charging a fixed rate of £4 per hour and click on the Save button. You'll now see he has his fixed rate from 06:45 until 4:30 and a session 2 from 4:30 to 6:30 charged at £4 per hour. Now we can see we have the breakdown of the meal information, no charges for any of the meals, and finally at the bottom of the page you will see a breakdown. Provision of contracted childcare, 1,408. That's 1,400 at the fixed rate and 2 hours at £4 per hour, making a total of £8 for 1,408. No childcare vouchers, no charges for meals, no additional charges. Total value 1,408. Once again, we're going to state that the invoice is complete and we're going to click on Save. Once the invoice is saved, you'll be taken back to Invoices for the Child, where you can see that the terminal invoice has been created from the 5th of September to the 16th of December. The invoice is complete, but it's currently unpaid. Now we're going to go back to the Accounts Invoicing section, where you can see the total for Johnny's invoice, 1,408. We're now going to proceed to create an invoice for Sabine. We click on the 7 icon shown here, indicating a weekly invoice. You will now be taken to the current month and week. However, we're going to create an invoice for July. We're going to click on the drop down arrow We're going to create an invoice for the 11th of July to the 17th of July. We click on the plus icon and you will now see a breakdown. 12 hours at £3.75, no additional rates, total for the above hours 45, and the funded hours total 30 hours. You'll now see that information displayed on the calendar for the week the 11th to the 17th. Here we can see funded hours and a £3.75 rate for session 2 and session 1 shown here. Total funded hours 30. No charges for any meals, and beneath this a breakdown of the invoice. The contracted childcare £45, 30 hours funded at 0, no childcare vouchers, additional charges, etc. Once again, we're going to state that the invoice is complete and we're going to create the invoice. We are then taken to the invoicing page for Sabine, where if we expand July, you will see that she has an invoice of £45 that's been created. It's currently unpaid. Now if we go to the accounts invoicing section, you will see the current invoices displayed here. Each of our 3 children now have an invoice created. We're now going to take a look at the funded children section on the system to see how we claim our funded childcare from the local authority. We place our mouse over the accounts section and click on funded children. You'll recall that we have 2 children that we have stated we claim childcare funding for. They are Harvey and Sabine. Here we can see for Harvey we have a claim of £484 for July, and for Sabine we have a claim of £285.50. We click on the view icon for Harvey. You will now see we have Harvey's funded hours for 2022. Here we can see for July we have 121 hours totaling £484. Here we can see the status indicates it's not submitted, detailing that these funded hours have not been submitted to the council for payment. If we click on the manage icon here, we have the view, print and delete option. If we click on view, you will now see a complete breakdown for July for Harvey's funded hours. Here we see for session 1, 2 hours at £4, which is the hourly funded rate we have stated we claim, indicating £8. And here we can see the entire month that we are claiming for. If you would like to see total values, click on this icon shown here. Total values displays the total of all sessions. So if we take a look at Friday the 8th, we have a total of 10 hours at 4. If we switch to session breakdowns, we have 2 sessions, 2 hours and 8 hours. If we now go back a page, once again you will see the 120 hours at 484. If we click on not submitted, it'll change it to submitted, indicating that you have submitted it to the council for payment. Once you have been paid, you can return to this page once again, clicking the submitted icon, changing it to paid, indicating that you have been paid for these funded hours. If we go back now to the funded children section, we can now see for Harvey we have a green box indicating that you have been paid for July for the £484. For Sabine, once again we're going to click on the view icon, and here we can see the 30 hours claimed, £285.50. Once again we can click on the view icon and we can see a breakdown of the hours and sessions, etc. for the child. In this example for Sabine, we also claim the early years pupil premium, and this is also clearly indicated on the breakdown for the month. If we now jump across to the accounts monthly income page and we switch the month to July, you'll now see an income breakdown for the month of July 2022. Here we can see that all invoices for July 2022 are £309. And all funding for July 2022 is £285.50 unpaid, 0 pending and £484 paid. Beneath this you will see total payments received for July 2022 is £484, and the total projected income for July 2022 is £769.50. The projected income would be the income that you would receive once all invoices and funding have been paid for the month. Beneath this, you will see action on children's invoices. Here we can see Harvey and Sabine's invoices for July 2022 currently indicated as unpaid. We can select some actions to submit on these invoices. We can mark the selected invoices as paid mark selected invoices unpaid, email an invoice reminder to parents, or print the selected invoice. To do that, you can either click on the invoice. You will see now that the invoice wobbles. Once selected, you select the action that you would like to take on those invoices. For example, we could mark selected invoices as paid and click on Submit Action. What you will do is now instantly mark the invoices as paid. Once again, we could click on the invoices and mark them as unpaid. In addition, we could tick the invoices and select Email an invoice reminder to parents. An invoice has now been sent to the selected parents. And finally, you can create Print Selected Invoices, submit the action, and the system will now zip up the invoices and allow you to download the invoices in a zip file. We now have action on funded income. Here we can see the funded income for July 2022. As you may recall, we stated that Harvey's 484 funded hours for July were paid. Here we can see that the system indicates they have been paid. We can repeat that process as we did above by selecting a funded income and select the action on the funded income. Mark selected funded hours as not submitted, mark them as submitted, and mark them as paid. Finally, beneath this, we have an expenses breakdown for the month of July 2022. As we have not yet created our expenses, this currently shows a 0 value. If we now take a look at the accounts yearly income section, first thing we're going to do is change the year to July 2022, as we have only created invoices for July 2022. Select July 2022 and click on Apply. The system will now change and display all invoices, unpaid, pending, paid, and the total amount. Here we can see we have £309 July 2022 unpaid and the total of 309. For funding from August 21 to 22, we have 285 unpaid and 484 paid, giving us a grand total of 769. Here we can see beneath this we have total payments received 484 and total projected income is 1078. 1078 would be all the income you would receive for the year had everybody paid their invoices and your funding had been paid. This is calculated from the all funding total of 769.50 and the all invoice total of 309, adding up to 1078.50. Beneath this, we have a wear and tear, which is calculated from 10% of your total projected income, 107.85. Beneath this, we can see a breakdown of the invoices for the year. Here we see for Harvey Daniels for July 2022, we have a red £264. This indicates that the invoice has not been paid. Clicking on it, we'll change it orange, indicating that it's currently now pending, and clicking on it again will indicate that the invoice has now been paid. If we scroll down further, we will see a funded hours total, where again we see for each month in the year, 484 for Harvey for July has already been paid, and for Sabine 285.50 currently not paid. We click on it, it will change to orange for pending, and clicking on it again will change it green to mark it as paid. Beneath this we will see the expenses total. As we've not yet created expenses, this will show us a 0 value. We are now going to create our expenses for July. We do this by placing the mouse over the accounts icon and clicking on expenses. I'm going to scroll down to July 2022 and click on the plus icon to create the expenses. You'll now see at the top of the page we have an expense total so far indicating food and drink of £231. This £231 has been automatically calculated from the invoices we created for the 3 children on the system. Here we have for Harvey £186 and for Sabine £45. This breakdown can be seen: 27 breakfasts, snacks, lunches, afternoon snacks and 23 dinners. The total food and drink expense of £231. If we click on the view icon, you will see a breakdown here. And if we click on the edit icon, we can edit individual children's invoices. Here we can see the invoice for Harvey with a breakdown of the meal information. You must create invoices for children before creating your expenses. If you create your expenses prior to creating your invoices, the system will be unable to calculate the food and drink expenses for each child. Beneath the food and drink expenses, you will see the vehicle expenses. When you originally set up your general settings, you stated that you wanted to claim mileage at 45 pence per mile. Now it's a simple process of just adding how many miles that you did in the selected month. Here we entered 532 at 45 pence per mile equals 239.40 of vehicle expenses. You can also enter individual journeys by clicking on the Add a Journey button, selecting the date, the description and the miles that you travelled. As you enter your individual journeys, the total miles is added up and shown here, business miles 23. You can repeat this process adding all your journeys that you took during the month of July. Within the household expenses section, we stated that we worked 40 hours a week. We can now claim gas, electricity, water, council tax and rent if applicable, calculated at the percentages shown. This calculation is created by working 40 hours a week. You can claim 33% of gas and electricity, 10% of water, council tax and rent. We simply enter the monthly costs for these items. The system will then calculate the percentage costs and display the total. Within the additional expenses section, you can now proceed to add any additional expenses. Each time you add an expense, the total cost will be calculated and displayed at the bottom of the page. Once you have finished your expenses, click on Save at the bottom of the page. You will now see for July we created our expenses at 477.25. Now if we go back to the monthly income section and change the month to July 2022, we will now see our income breakdown and our expenses breakdown at the bottom of the page. Likewise, if we now select the yearly income page, you will see a breakdown of our total income and our total expenditure for the year.